Gen AI will help entrepreneurs build unicorns in months. AI will start the next world war and wipe out the whole humanity. Gen AI will create a utopia that we all have been waiting for. There are all sorts of crazy, extreme, and fascinating claims that AI experts have been making in the last few years. And to be honest, no claim sounds ridiculous after witnessing what AI has been able to do so far. And because this space is innovating so fast, we wanted to bring some subject matter experts to discuss this topic at length. Hi, this is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners. We are a deep tech revenue scaler and fund based in Singapore with approximately 100 startups in the portfolio. These are AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, robotics, AR, VR kind of startups from different parts of the world, stages, and sectors. Being a revenue scaler, we are completely focused on acquiring customers and supporting startups with the go-to-market strategy, go-to-market expansion in different geographies. We are thrilled to host this panel in collaboration with Hercules AI, new startup in our portfolio, offering productivity enhancement AI co-pilots to enterprises. Now, without further delay, I would request our esteemed panelists to introduce themselves. If I may request Lincoln to go ahead and do an intro.
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Lincoln Teo. I'm the co-founder of Stone Method Holdings. So maybe just to say a little bit about Stone Method Holdings itself. We are a company that's specializing in IoT devices as well as solutions. One of the key things is that as the world changed, as you know, increasingly there's incredible need for data, and we basically act as a solution provider for many of the businesses in the area of commercial factories, pretty much looking at industrialization 4.0. What we essentially do is that we aggregate some of these IoT devices, collect the data, and of course offer solutions to all these buildings, businesses, retail space as well, so that they could use the data and accentuate their differences in that sense. For us, more recently is that we of course are looking at AI to infuse some of these solutions. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And really appreciate Lincoln because he's dialing in from Singapore at 11 p.m. SCT. So really appreciate your time, Lincoln, over here. Vishal, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Sure. Hi. Good morning and good evening, depending upon wherever people are joining from. My name is Vishal Gupta. I'm currently the CIO and CTO at Lexmark. And, I've been fortunate to have been in the AI space for some time. I started came to US almost 30 years back, on a degree at Dartmouth. And there I actually created a search engine using AI, using singular value decomposition and neural networks. I just didn't know it was an important thing. It was before even Google was there. So I've been dabbling with AI for a while. I've actually led a lot of AI work also at Cisco and Symantec and Unisys and now at Lexmark, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Vishal. Sunil, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Hi, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Sunil Ravipati. I'm based in Santa Clara, California, and I've been involved in a lot of the startups in the Bay Area as well as big companies. I most recently worked for Elevance Health, which is formerly EthAum, leading the Zero Trust side of things on the digital solutions. So we launched several products and initiatives using AI, ML to securely connect all the stakeholders in healthcare, specifically members, providers, and payer like EthAum, to provide a complete solution to members to get their insights from their healthcare data. And I'm also launching a startup called Yota Secure to securely connect members and physicians, as well as payers too. So I'm glad to be here today and be part of the community to involve with startups here
Thank you.
as a
Thanks a lot,
panelist.
Sunil. Appreciate your time. Naveen.
Sure. Thanks, Pankaj, and good morning, good afternoon, good everyone to the entire viewers who are watching us from around the world. Hi, my name is Naveen Nathani, and I work with a company called as Hindalco Industries, which is part of the Aditya Birla Group, based out of Mumbai and pretty much a Mumbaiker. We are doing a lot of innovative work, especially when it comes to manufacturing, because we are in the metals and the mining space. And therefore, it's all about really transformation on the ground at the shop floor. How can we really enable various technologies to really drive decision making? And therefore, data driven decision making is one of the core facets of the foundational transformation journey that we are undertaking here at the company. So I lead, the modern data strategy and the data governance piece, along with the corporate digital transformation. Been here for almost about 21 years, worked across multiple industries, and very glad to join a very prominent and an eminent group of knowledgeable people around the world.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Naveen. Appreciate your time. Next, I would request Yash, CEO of Hercules AI and moderator of today's event, to introduce himself. Yash, please.
Hey everyone, good day. Nice to be part of this Elite group. Thank you, Pankaj, for making this happen. So, a brief 40,000-foot overview of my profile. I have around 14 years of AI and ML background. Started my career in India, where I bootstrapped my own B2C venture. I'll not go into details. It was not a successful initiative. Then I spent a few years with Adobe and Amazon in data science leadership roles. Also, worked on AI-based search, which Vishal was talking about a few moments earlier, working with similarity classes and traditional Lucene-based stack. So good old days. Then moved to Germany in 2015, where I'm currently based as well. Initially, I was part of the Accenture's AI team, worked with a lot of different clients across different domains, pharmaceutical, manufacturing, automobile, finance, retail, and various solutions. Specifically on enterprise AI and enterprise data category. A very interesting journey, and then worked a couple of years for DataRobot. Which is one of the pioneer AI companies, which is based out of Boston. Helped them build their automated machine learning and automated time series practice. We grew it up to 150 million ARR in business as well. Also got opportunity to start working on some of the generative AI use cases much before the world started talking about it. It got popular because of ChatGPT, but was lucky enough to work on a couple of use cases. And then I realized there's a lot of gap, because we have these wonderful AI models which can reason and solve problems. But when it comes to the enterprise world, right? Why can't we embed these models into minions, what we call it digital workers or AI employees, and get tasks done? So that's the thesis with which we started the company. It has been almost 9 months, and yeah, we have partnered with EthAum as well, and a couple of interesting partners who are helping us out, including European Union as well. I'll talk about it a bit later during my presentation. So yeah, that's a short introduction about myself. Looking forward to learn, looking forward to understand about different challenges and different initiatives which are taking place in these various industries, which these elite panelists represent. Yeah. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Yash. And I know that you have prepared really good set of questions that you are dying to ask. So why don't we start with those questions and get some insights from the panel? Please go ahead.
Sure. I can take it forward from where Pankaj left, right? Pankaj started with this keynote where he mentioned there's been a lot of opinions about AI, right? Both utopian and dystopian. People are saying, hey, AI will create a lot of fake images, create wars, destroy humanity. On the other hand, people are saying, hey, AI will cure all diseases, create all new materials, will make life I mean, like hunky-dory or like make everything beautiful, right? But the truth may somewhere be somewhere in the between or like in middle, right? So just wanted to like understand because these days is a day of like social media, a lot of like memes, a lot of like myths, a lot of like taboos are like going around. So just want to like understand from our panelists what is some of the interesting taboo or like myths they have heard. It can be both utopian or like dystopian, and what they don't agree with it, or like why they feel that it's a myth or like taboo in the first place, right? I'll pick some random order. Vishal, I mean, can you go first? Give your thoughts. We'd love to like hear more about it from you.
Sure, that's a great question, Yash. So I think the first thing I don't agree, there's a lot of, talk about how AI, will make everybody lose their job. Every single job, including that of the CEO, can be done by AI, and we're going to need universal basic income because we'll have nothing left to do. I actually think the world is going to be the competition is not going to be between AI and a person. It's going to be between a person who embraces AI and a person who doesn't. I think the co-pilot notion that kind of Microsoft came up with, I think is the right way of looking at it, to augment an individual as opposed to replace an individual, because ultimately it's very hard to be 100% accurate on a lot of things. You need a lot of judgment on things, and so to me it's just, like we use a computer to augment us, and there's a time when people thought computers will replace all the humans. There's time people thought web would replace all the humans, and it turns out the world is probably more prosperous right now than it was maybe 10 years back. And so I feel that's probably the piece that I feel has the biggest misunderstanding. Um, Now, there may be select areas where that happens, but the number of new things that get created is going to be far more. And so I think if you are listening to this podcast, I would urge folks to not get into the hype on either side of, going on either of the extremes, and really think more about not necessarily how it'll replace you, but what can you do to embrace it, so you have a better competitive advantage than folks who don't.
Thank you, Vishal. I mean, Lincoln, do you want to like share your thoughts next?
Sure. Thank you. Just to follow on the thread of discussion itself, I think the whole notion about AI being perhaps on the wrong side of the equation has sometimes been overstated. And I think the merits of it, and we try to show, is pretty much in a scenario that perhaps I would like to describe, right? For example, in Stone Method itself, we deal with security cameras, and we put all these IoT devices. And of course, in the whole security world itself, I'm not sure in many parts of the world, but certainly in some parts of Singapore, it seems to be a role undertaken by the retirees. And that itself constitutes a problem because of aging population. The other thing, of course, is the fact that when you get into a AI mode, you start saying, "Oh gosh, does that mean that we're more and more aged, and that's going to replace some of these people who are looking this as a natural kind of a job itself?" But there's a whole job redesign and the new job roles. Essentially, people start realizing that with the cameras itself, you displace the normal foot-to-foot kind of a security guards going from place to place. But essentially, you then turn some of these people into new roles because the cameras itself may give you multiple ways or insight into a facilities, but you really need the AI generated kind of a content to point out certain things that is going wrong, because the naked eye can't be looking at 100 different screens at the same time. And then this whole upgrading of roles itself means that you elevate a simple kind of occupation into something more different. You basically place people into solutions and thought processes so that you could basically carve out a new role. And like what we said earlier on, you basically don't displace jobs, but you make the jobs much more interesting and perhaps give more value to the overall enterprise that we are dealing with. So that's a bit of a viewpoint, if you ask me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln. Naveen, I mean, do you want to go next and share your thoughts?
Sure, Yash, absolutely. All right. So I'll just move a little bit of a context, from people displacement onto some other myths or taboos that are really kind of impacting all of us. I think one of the things that people think is that um, there will be an instant savings that would be there, or an instant business value that will be gratified as soon as you turn the Gen AI knob on. I think that's clearly a myth or a taboo. I would say people are really thinking it's like a kind of a magic wand, which will really solve all your problems and will immediately give business the 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 the, the right benefit, or the value realization, or the return on investment right from day one onwards. I think that's clearly a myth, where people are kind of thinking about that, because unlike, as we have seen with cloud was one of the key examples, that has really taken a lot of time. When I talk about across the globe, you see the cloud adoption starting with developed countries, and over a period of time moving on to developing countries and others that is there. But you see that change, and therefore it's going to take a little while, till the time you are really able to extract the true value out of it. I think the second thing is, what I think is, and this is how organizations are thinking about it, and some organizations feel that generative AI will not impact their business. I think that is again a myth. I would say that businesses really need to kind of think about the fact that how customers can be at the center of the change, because customers are really driving the instant gratification that we have. So, for example, at Amazon, we want everything to be delivered in 24 hours or less than that, maybe less than 12 hours as well. Now, how all of that would happen? So it's all about making sure that how are you really able to embed the generative AI or the artificial intelligence solutions into the center of customer traction, in order to really drive the entire outcome on how it would really impact the larger ecosystem. And I think quickly a third myth is that I think organizations are really thinking about the fact that as soon as they have an AI solution, there will be an ISV who would come in and who would immediately implement it, and it would be a seamless affair from day one. Well, I think that is again a myth, because it really needs a lot of customization, when you're talking about changing your business processes. And as we all know, change isn't easy. Change is something that's very difficult, especially on the people management side. So I think these are a couple of facets that I think are really myths, that organizations really need to think about.
Thank you, Naveen. Very good points. Sunil, you want to go next?
Please unmute yourself.
Comments. Well,
Okay, good.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So change is always going to disrupt, what's going to be innovative, right? And it's always the uh, pattern which comes with the change, like the fear and the misconception and everything. So I also attend a great course at Stanford, taught by Dr. Ranjan Nag. He's a very well-known professor in AI and Gen AI. And some of these early AI systems are already in place, which are being used in various ways by Google, Bard, and Microsoft and other companies, right? So there's Copilot and Chatbot AI, which is becoming more and more prominent the last few years with LLMs, large language models. So this, I would say, this would add in to bring more new business and opening up new innovation, which is already happening, to provide better customer interactions, especially with chatbot, and also remove human in the loop for some of the uh, systems related to, for example, in healthcare. We have been looking at how we can use AI, Gen AI kind of solutions to to look into the billing side of things and coding, as well as provide better health experience to members and as well as for providers, especially for the physicians who are getting overburdened with time crunch, as well as a lot of the patient uh, interactions, right? So, and for member to give a better experience so that they would be able to get insight into their medical healthcare much more with a personalized AI kind of interaction. So essentially, there's a regulatory and ethical AI which is in place, which is the government and the institutions, especially the academic institutions, are now trying to formulate a regulatory framework and also ethical AI kind of approach to how AI systems should behave, as well as should operate within certain what do you call, like um, good behavior, right? Rather than getting into the bad behavior side of things. I think it's evolving. I would say the framework should also be there in place to do the checks and balances to ensure that the AI is not misused. Um, you're all familiar with dark web. You know, there's been so many um, downsides on the internet of how internet is being misused as well. So I hope uh, AI is going to be used in a very non biased way. So there's already bias which is coming up. AI biases, algorithms, and how institutions and industry is trying to make sure that especially given the current situation where we are going through an election year, not only in US but even in India and other places, AI systems are being used in a lot of the campaigns and political analysis. Uh, so to make sure that they are non-biased, that's going to be a challenge, I think, for everyone who's involved in AI and who are looking to innovate in this space in Gen AI.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, everyone. Very great and valid points. I mean, I totally agree with all of you. I mean, we need not be overly optimistic or overly pessimistic. I think we should be realistic with AI. So that's my sort of 2 cents. And also, I mean, I tell this to my team. I mean, don't be worried that your jobs won't be lost. Or also, I mean, don't feel that nothing will change because of AI. It's more like you promoting yourself one or two position, so that you have an assistant who does a lot of your job and automate a lot of stuff for you. So it's an extremely great productivity tool, right? And obviously, with all technologies, there comes negative aspects of it as well. For example, with great discoveries of the past, right? Electricity or fire. I mean, it can be used for good, and it can also be used for bad, right? I mean, even the nuclear weapons, right? So everything. So it's more about how we regulate it and how we use it. And I'm optimistic on the future of the AI for sure, because I mean, if you look back at the industrial revolution as well, right? Back then, a lot of people were scared that their physical jobs will go away because machines came in. Because back in England in 18th century, a lot of textiles were made in hand, and also a lot of furnitures were made in hand, and suddenly machines came in, and people were protesting. Some of the factories were burned down, thinking that machines will take away jobs. And if we look back after 200 years, the quality of goods and services which we have and the quality of life which we have can be directly plotted to that industrial revolution. If we had thought back then, hey, I mean, we should stifle innovation, we would still be stitching clothes with our hands, and we wouldn't have had this sort of panel discussion today, right? So AI will definitely create more wonderful jobs and more opportunities. So there's no need to be scared, and yeah, take these myths and taboos with a grain of salt, and then yeah. So I mean, totally agree. I mean, in general with every panelist. Yeah. So moving on. So from myths, we'll go to some of the more pleasant topics. What are some of the interesting sort of Gen AI applications which you are thrilled about? And are there any of these interesting applications you have started implementing it in your organizations, right? So I'll go with the reverse order now. Maybe I mean, Sunil, you want to go first?
Sure, yes. Yeah, I agree with your comments on the job side of the prospects, and for the applications. So there's so many applications Gen AI are being used right now, and one of the I think I would say the few top applications, especially given that I've been in healthcare, is Gen AI is being looked at how similar to ChatGPT kind of prompt, where members in healthcare, like patients, can get a personalized assistant to interact and get personalized precision medicine for their healthcare insights. Because a lot of the data is fragmented healthcare data, and there is data siloed in many systems within a institution. It could be a healthcare provider, like a hospital setting, or an insurance. For example, the patient might have filed claims over a period of time, and they don't have the track or history of all their claims. I think Gen AI would help the member look at all the claims they had in the past and optimize their um, claim processing. And also on the provider side, essentially, even though there's not staff and all, increasingly physicians are using mobile to communicate with the patients, like they use Zoom software or other collaborative software to do video-based collaboration. And I think Gen AI solutions could help physicians reduce the burden of getting case history at a much more tailored to the patient they're looking at, as well as give prior authorizations. So voice-enabled mechanism to look at prior authorization for a member, case history, and case closure. So definitely this is going to disrupt the healthcare industry for Gen AI. And I would say a word of caution here is to have a regulatory framework, because given that healthcare data is highly regulated, and privacy and security is of utmost importance, making sure that the data proliferation doesn't happen across AI systems, and it shouldn't be getting into the wrong hands. So on the healthcare side, I would say that's a great use case. And of course, on the I would say on the other use cases, more on the security, right? Cybersecurity. I hate to say this, but you need AI to Gen AI to help AI-based cybersecurity systems. Essentially, uh, build a AI-based framework, a Gen AI-based framework, essentially to do a lot of the automation around compliance. Learn based on the networks. Typically, you have all these perimeter solutions out there like Palo Alto and other solutions, which would stop the attackers at the perimeter. But it's been proven that still the attackers can get into the organizations and steal uh, data or do social engineering, so on and so forth. So there are still gaps in the security space where Gen AI could help learn learn the network and become more smarter to prevent attackers, or at least uh, save the businesses from completely getting into the attacker's hand. That would be my two top use cases.
Thank you, Sunil. Very interesting. Naveen, you want to go next?
Oh, sure, Yash. All right. Okay. So I think some great use cases coming in. I think one of the things that we have been very cautionate about has been uh, we don't want to over engineer anything. That's been one of the key facets for us. And therefore, just because artificial intelligence has been around doesn't mean that you start using and build solutions based on that. But for us, it has primarily been a need based journey that is there. And therefore, we have really considered what are the various facets that we could look at in order to provide a very comprehensive solution for our businesses. So, for example, so since we are in the metals and the mining business and we operate large plants, one of the most important factors for us is the safety of the workers. And I think considering that you have got a large workforce of shop floor employees on in the office premises or in the factory premises, it's very critical that how do you detect oil spillage? How do you detect fire incidents and similar such circumstances that are there? And I think that's where what we have done is we have actually used a combination of artificial intelligence with vision and image analytics in order to really detect, where there is a fire, or where there's a probability of a fire, or if there's an oil spillage, can we immediately inform, the shop floor guys to just pause and do not visit that area. So I think that's been one of the big things that we have done across our entire group, and that's been very successful for us. So I think that's one key area where we have leveraged it. The second use case I would talk about is in the area of quality control. I think one of the most important aspects for us in manufacturing is that your quality should have zero defects, and therefore, what it really means is how can you really ensure that you can predict what would be the output. When you are actually on the conveyor belt, and there are manufacturing excellence systems that are really producing, the quality of metal that we need, and therefore using again a blend of artificial intelligence with vision, image analytics, and with edge analytics, we have put together a platform that really helps us to predict a quality defect that would come in because of a certain input into the parameters, into the outcome parameters that are there. And therefore, that has really helped us significantly improve our productivity control up and reduce zero defects, and also improve the entire customer experience that is there. So I would say that in manufacturing, there are multiple such use cases. Generative AI, we all know about in terms of how it has really implemented or really driven the entire customer experience journey. So we are using it in bits and pieces, but we are very cautionate about where do we want to use it and how we want to use it, and how do we want to make sure that responsible AI is really governing the entire output that is there. Because at the end of the day, we don't want any biases within our processes, which could really, take our business processes for a toss.
Some very great diverse use cases, Naveen. Thank you for that. Lincoln, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. I think for us, I would state certain use cases with respect to the facilities management part. And essentially, I just want to talk a little bit about how the digital twin model come into play with some of the Gen AI capabilities that we're looking at. Essentially, I think what we have been trying to do with some of our clients essentially is to ensure that they are able to see that overall representation based on the data that we have generated from the different IoT devices that we have been collecting the data, and give them an insight into, first of all, what does this look like from a digital perspective. Then, of course, we would then look at what are the kind of possibilities that could be generated from different kinds of outcomes, and again, not so much in terms of perhaps some crisis. Of course, things like fires and perhaps some critical situations could evolve from there. But I think we're also looking at something much more practical as well. For example, a certain kind of a human traffic of a certain facility location impacts on some of the data that we collect in terms of the leasing of the space, as well as the sales transaction of the space. So that gives asset owners a different perspective of what is the possible outcome of the particular asset versus some of the things that they've been doing vis-a-vis investments in certain technologies or certain efficiencies, for example, that could bring them to the a certain kind of a payback or a ROI, for example. And of course, I think that there is also a certain twist into the sustainability space as well, where we will be able to use, again, Gen AI capabilities, right, to potentially hypothesize how a particular building, given a certain cut down in terms of reliance of certain energy usage, because better use of efficient air conditioning and lighting and many other things. And then again, given that whole mix, how does that translate into obviously carbon savings, cost savings, and perhaps a much more definitive sort of response to their own sustainability development goals for that matter itself. Yeah.
Thank you, Lincoln. I mean, again, like very interesting, diverse use cases. Vishal, I mean, you want to go next and talk about some of the use cases you see in like Lexmark or in general?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So we've been using AI probably for over 7 years, right? So when Gen AI kind of came along, I think we've been a very active embracer of it because we built a very comprehensive data infrastructure, which is sort of something that also is very helpful with Gen AI if you're really trying to create competitive advantage. And so I would probably put our use cases in three buckets, right? One is if you think about how do we really transform our processes to make them better. And I'll give you two very specific examples of projects we're doing. If you think about marketing and sales, let's say you think about RFP, right? RFP is a great candidate where you've got the data because you've got the RFP responses from the past, and you know the ones you won. And you get so many RFPs and you've got to respond to them. And that's the core benefit of Gen AI, to be able to generate good responses to questions. So this is one of the first ones we went after. We trained it with 600 RFP responses from RFPs that we had won. And we find that's a great use case for us to, because of the data infrastructure we'd built, to be able to, drive right outcomes for it. Where now for the same group, we're able to do far more RFPs, and it's got, an impact north of $5 million on us. The second use case from a process standpoint that we saw that's a very ripe one is customer care, right? We have 800 customer care agents. We pride ourselves in providing great customer service. We have all the data that exists from millions of cases that we have done. So we can train using that generative AI with the data and be able to really reduce the triage time on those calls. The average handling time today is 11 minutes. We could bring it down by 50%, because now we have both through IoT a better data coming in, and also because of what's happening, we can, not have to ask the same question every time, but be very, very specific on the question asked and on the troubleshooting done. And that actually has tens of millions of impact, right? So that's kind of on the process side, transforming care, transforming your marketing and sales. We're also, embracing Gen AI for what I would call as not technologies that we're putting in, but technologies others are putting in. So for example, I have a large development team. And so, we're embracing Gen AI with things like GitHub Copilot or those things, to say, how do we do our testing? How do we do our development? How do we do our documentation, right? So really, those are prime candidates because with all the trials that we've run, we definitely see lots of applications, even for legacy code too, right? A lot of legacy software products, you can actually do a better job in maintaining them, and also ensuring the knowledge with Gen AI. The third use case is embedding it in our products, right? And so if you transform your process, you transform your core activities, and then you think on the process side, the product side. The product side, I'll give you a simple example, right? When we typically launch a software product, it takes time for people to understand the new features, how do they take advantage of it. A lot of times these products with new capabilities don't actually end up getting used for what these capabilities are meant for. So we created a product assistant, so you could just talk to the product and say, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And the product actually tells you what to do. Right? We also launched a data assistant in the product where, when you have, let's say, types of data you need that's not in the canned reports we're providing, it'll actually generate the SQL for you, which, you could essentially go and get that data. And so I do, I'm a glass half full kind of a guy. And so I do see a lot of, at least for people with a sophisticated data infrastructure, a lot of advantages from a use case perspective that Gen AI can bring.
Thank you, Vishal. I mean, like very nicely explained and very interesting use cases across different domains. So thank you for that. I mean, I agree with all the panelists, right? I mean, traditionally we had these RPA systems where a lot of these processes were automating and automated in a very manual way where you have to like write all these rules. Now it's mostly using bots, right? I mean, using Gen AI, and we are venturing into era of cognitive process automation instead of like robotic process automation, and that's here to stay. And more deeper processes will get automated as and when, I mean, like we build underlying technological moats, right? I mean, as our models get stronger, as our data becomes more cleaner and like well efficiently like organized, these two will come together and like will have a greater synergy in terms of building these cognitive process automations. So yeah, I mean, like I'm a glass half full kind of a guy as well, and I'm very optimistic about the future from a Gen AI perspective. So thank you all for your interesting thoughts on the use cases. So in the interest of time, I will I had a couple of questions, but I'll just wrap them both into like one question, right? So what are like some of the policies or like trends which you are seeing in generative AI is like causing some frustration for you? And also, if there's a magic wand and you wanted to like fix any of these sort of like enterprise sort of like problems, what would that problem be, and like how would you like envision that, right? So I'll go in a random order again. Lincoln, I mean, maybe you want to like go first. Lincoln, you're on mute.
Yep, sure. Happy to go first on this. I think the perhaps an afterthought on this would be very much on the fact that in this whole mode, which I said earlier on about scenario planning, right? It obviously gives you a multitude of possibilities, and perhaps one would say, well, the different kind of scenarios would perhaps prepare you for different things and perhaps make you, as a result, more amply able to counter any of those challenges. Now, I think that's the part where maybe we may get too much ahead of ourselves in those kind of scenarios. We could perhaps overly place undue and perhaps excessive pressure in terms of looking at some of these scenarios, and therefore I think the data part becomes important because then we don't go into a wildcatting mode, but perhaps be a little bit more mathematical in terms of what are these possibilities in terms of probabilities, and I think that that's just one part, right? When we start becoming frightened of our own shadows. The other part, of course, is that how quickly we could also at the same time come up with the solutions to essentially be able to sort of marry the two together, but at the same time know that we are well armed to combat some of these potential scenarios. And I think that's the part that I think we should probably place a little bit more emphasis on, if you ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln. I mean, like very nicely like put. Sunil, you want to like go next?
Yes, I think the challenge I see is essentially what's inside the hood, right? So that's great, folks are talking about Gen AI, the applications, and how it's going to transform the whole industry and the world. But what's the algorithms which are being used to build the models, and also what kind of uh, 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 process flow is being used and adopted, right, in building these. So as for a layman, even in who's trying to get into this space, especially in the technology side, it's still a black box. There's great LLMs and all that, but how is that going to be um, adaptable to build a solution is still a challenge, I believe, that many people are trying to learn and pick on it. So essentially, if you take the example of any programming language, which like C, C++, Java, all these programming languages uh, made people to build great systems. And of course, there were great tooling around it, a lot of libraries and a lot of innovation a lot of contribution from open source community, which has happened. And LLMs with GenAI is just scratching the surface. I mean, there's so much to do around it. A lot of the solutions which are out there, except of OpenAI, which is giving an insight into the ChatGPT kind of framework, but still there is so much to be innovated and built around this to make it a much more secure and open for everyone to learn and build solutions on top of it. That's where I see that still a lot of startups and companies needs to have the business model they have to build out to essentially build these kind of solutions, and also the training and onboarding, right, for not only for technologists but also for employees, how to use these solutions. And I go back to this healthcare example. For example, if an Gen AI solution is deployed in a healthcare setting, the employees as well as the end users needs to be trained as to how effectively they can use this Gen AI to provide a effective answer or solution to what they're looking for, right? So they might need to be trained on what kind of prompts they have to learn, or what kind of prompts they have to formulate to ask the right question to get the right answer. And we don't want it to become like yet another search engine where there's so many options, and now it's up to the user to make the decision. I guess that's where GenAI is going to bridge the gap, I believe. Rather than going to a search engine and getting so many answers, especially in healthcare. I mean, everyone tries to Google their symptoms, get answers, and there's so many varied answers, and sometimes people can have make wrong assumptions based on what's available on the web. I think that's where I would say a lot of framework and policy should be there to tailor to make sure that Gen AI doesn't fall into that trap as well with the search engine results. That would be my 2 cents.
Thank you, Sunil. I mean, totally agree with you. Vishal, I mean, you want to go next?
Sure. I want to build on what Sunil was saying. And I'll give you two analogies to bring it home. I think the problem, why we're facing this problem today is, we're having all this hype cycle where we have obviously all of these applications that are possible, a lot of promise, but no trust, right? And if you fundamentally think about to drive scaled adoption, what builds trust? You think about supermarket. You go to supermarket, you buy something to eat, and it has a label that FDA has regulated that says what's inside in a systematic way, so I can compare it across things. Like if I'm buying a cereal box or something, right? I can say, okay, how much protein, how much fat, how much these are there. And clearly there must have been a time when these were not there, but now I do. And so I can make an informed choice. So I think the one piece so I feel there's two big problems that we're facing, which are both very solvable, right? So the one piece we're missing is quote unquote, the ingredients inside. We have no, it's sort of like leap of faith, kind of just trust us kind of a thing, whether there's a bias or not. And we need to think about what is that food label that could be put on a Gen AI algorithm or an offering that will bring you the transparency. The second thing I would say is at the end of the day, a lot of this is software. If you think what else we do in the world of software, right? You've got NIST and the vulnerability database. And that protects me because that tells me, compared to all the new vulnerabilities that are coming up, right? How many you're supposed to, as a software maker or as a product maker, you are supposed to, show what vulnerabilities you've got. You're supposed to release patches for those vulnerabilities. So that in the world of security brings, again, a level of trust and a level of capability to address the problem. We don't have that either, right? So neither do we know from these algorithms the efficacy, nor do we know the bias, right? To me, the bias is the ingredients inside, and the efficacy is sort of like the vulnerability NIST equivalent. Which, some of the folks, for example, are in the world of security. I was an SVP at Semantic for security, built a lot of security offerings. So we're fundamentally missing these two key ingredients. which I think are critical if we want to really drive the adoption which is possible and the impact which is possible. So to bridge the trust, which there's going to be massively a trust deficit, I believe we'll have to be very transparent on both the efficacy and the training of the data that went in.
Great points, Vishal. Totally agree with you. Naveen, I mean, you want to go next?
Sure, Yash. All right. I think Vishal has just summed up everything in just one word, trust. And I think that's been something that's been very powerful. I think all of us are leveraging all of these technologies because of the fact that we trust them. But I think with the introduction of AI, while it has been there for some time, I would still say it has its own sense of challenges regarding acceptability. Like, for example, I was reading a very interesting instance that happened with one of the customer service call centers where a customer called up, a call center agent for a query. And at the start of the call, the recording said that we will be recording your conversations, for quality and training purposes. And the customer was so worried that his voice data could then be used to train an AI model, which could then be used as a voice recording or as a voice print for stealing the biometric or the personal data. So you are seeing the essence in terms of how technology on one side is really being built to seamlessly deliver a great experience, but at the same point in time, it also can be used for malicious purposes as well. And I think we all, to a lot of extent, know about this. We know about how scams and frauds and phishing of emails is happening, right? And I think times are coming in, especially with the scammers, where they can be so close to writing such a perfect email that you would not be able to really distinguish between a genuine email versus a fake email, right? And I can see the smile on everyone's face. So I think that is really what is really being one of the big big factors that is really being frustrating. The second thing, I would say is, if I were to be given a magical wand, what would I really do? I think I would say that I would really introduce some sense of humor into these AI systems, so that it makes the board conversations much funnier and humorous, and you can have a hearty laugh, especially after the conversations that we have. But on a professional front, what I think is really it's all about how can these AI systems operate with a lot of transparency and confidence. Because at the end of the day, we are looking at adoption of these AI services across customer platforms, and therefore, the one magical wand I would say would be how can these AI systems build in that kind of confidence, which has been there for the previous technology stacks that we have seen. But now it's all about how can this AI really kind of rationalize the entire approach. So those would be a couple of cents from my side.
Thank you, Naveen. Some great points there. Well, I mean, the panelists have covered everything which I wanted to say. I mean, we have very broad sort of topics which we discussed. I mean, to just to expand on some of the things, right? I mean, especially for technical audience who are watching the stream live, one of my frustration has been a lot of indexing has been done on this power loss of scaling, right? I mean, you hear Sam Altman is looking for $7 trillion to build this mega chip factory and all that stuff. So there's a lot of being money thrown around for GPUs, and there's a lot of sort of focus on the scaling loss, whereas the primitive sort of the architecture part, right? I mean, yes, I mean we all agree that transformer architecture, I mean put us, I mean where we are today, but there should be more research on different types of architectures, right? I mean, it's not just about throwing in GPUs. It's more about also how efficiently we will build these models. So that's one area where I mean I would feel that the trend or the AI sort of motion is a bit frustrating. And regarding the magic wand, I mean my magic wand will always has to do with the data, because great data will give rise to great models. And right now the data is extremely unorganized in enterprises. So I would find a way to organize it in an efficient way, and not with thousands of applications which we have today with very segregated infrastructure. We would have a nice sort of like data infrastructure. So that's my 2 cents. I mean, like how I would approach it. I mean, if I have a magic wand to fix some of the AI challenges. Yeah. So thank you everyone for excellent sort of like thoughts and like enlightening our audiences as well. I mean, like with different perspectives, very, very helpful. Then I'll hand it over to like Pankaj.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Yash. I think this has been fantastic conversation so far. I was amazed to see the insights that we are able to grab from industry leaders on generative AI, the potential, the use cases, the challenges, and things of that nature. But this is not the end, right? This is just the one part of the event. In the second part, we transition to Rose session, where obviously Yash is going to talk about what he's building at Hercules AI, what are the challenges that he's facing, the solution, how he plans to scale the solution. And then I would request our panelists to ask some brutal, honest question and provide some really, honest feedback to him on the solution, on the differentiation, and so on and so forth. So Yash, are you ready to share your screen and show us what you have been building so far?
Thank you, Pankaj. So I'll just share the screen. Please let me know, if you all can see my screen. Give me a minute.
And one request to the panelists: please don't shy, don't hesitate. I'm sure that Yash can, can take all the feedback without swearing, without crying. So let the heat. Okay. Yes, we
Definitely.
see.
I mean, I really appreciate critical feedback much more than sweet sugar coated feedback. So would love to like hear some critical feedback for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, it would help us to like build the future which we are all envisioning for, right? I mean, we're all in the same team, so we all want a better future. So would definitely like appreciate some great feedback there. In the interest of time, I will keep it short. I'll give you a 40,000-foot overview. If you need more details, please let me know so that I can double click and go in details and like explain, right? So we are Hercules AI. We are building all-in-one SaaS platform for enterprises to build, manage, monitor, and deploy what we call as like AI employees or digital workers, right? So these are not mimicking human workers. So these are minions. So these minions can take your task and like go ahead and like complete it for you, so that you can guide these minions and they will get better and better over time. We have designed the system keeping in mind the similar philosophies which are adopted in the human world, right? By first principles. So for example, how we humans operate in an enterprise world is, if I'm a marketing analyst, I would have the understanding of marketing domain. Then I would use some of the marketing tools, right? Marketo, Adobe Omniture, Google Analytics, a lot of these tools. So our minions are also like designed in a very similar way. I'll show you the demo. It will help you all connect the dots. So that is applicable for every of the minions which we have built, right? So how we differentiate a human employee from domain to domain is, in my opinion, is the domain knowledge and also like the accessibility and the training of certain databases, applications, and tools which humans have access to. That's how we differentiate a marketing analyst from a sales analyst, right? So that's the same sort of like philosophy which we have also like gone with. Without further ado, I'll just get into the platform. Yep. Can you all still see my screen? So I'll take an example of Cisco. Since it's a company with, let's say, hundreds of thousands of like employees and thousands of like enterprise applications, tools, and databases, right? And we will walk through how a platform like Hercules can help Cisco, expedite some of their processes and also like bring in like business outcome, based values. So we have two different sort of like value propositions within the platform. So the one is the pre-trained marketplace. So the pre-trained marketplace is where we have these pre-configured digital workers. So as I was mentioning, right, we have, let's say, like customer support digital worker, which is trained on customer support domain. It will have access to like certain tools, which it has already been trained on, so that it can go and like complete certain tasks there. And also, we understand that we cannot build a pre-trained sort of like AI employees for all purposes. These minions are very much boxed with limited capabilities, and it also comes with sort of like prescription that, hey, I mean, like these are the things which it can do, these are the things which it cannot do, right? For example, when Vishal was mentioning how they have automated their RFP process, that is a very good example, because RFP processes are common across different industries and like different organizations. Is the only the data part which is changing company to company, right? And also, like, for example, if you're talking about a sales process, the business development process is always the same, right? I mean, you have your sales executive who is always interested in getting into sales call and talking to customers, but the business development work, right, where you will go to like your LinkedIn, where you look at your ICP, then go to their website and do some research, and based on your company's sort of like data, right, you tailor a message and then reach out to them on LinkedIn. It might not be like very interesting for us humans to do, right? So think about it. If we have a sales analyst minion which has access to your internal data, so it understands your internal context in the same manner, I mean, like it has abilities to like open the browser, go to LinkedIn, click on like the relevant sort of like profiles, and send messages and custom tailor those messages, right? So this is a box in which it operates. It's a business development sort of like minion, let's say it. So this is like super helpful, because you can like then delegate your business development tasks to these sales minion, right? So this is how we see it. We are not developing these sort of like pre-trained workers to replace jobs, but we are developing these to like augment the job so that humans can be like more productive, right? So this is like one part of the product, but we understand that not all companies have the same requirements. So we also have a no-code platform where you can build custom AI employees as well. And to build any AI employees, right? I mean, if you think from the first principle perspective, you need the intelligence layer. So this is where a lot of like big companies are competing, right? The LLMs. You have like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, and all of these companies. We are doing some innovations there by building our own foundational model. I'll come to that part later. But apart from this foundational sort of like intelligence layer, you also need the orchestration layer, right? I mean, how will you call the LLM? Which tools you will go to talk to for which tasks? And also like the connectors, right? I mean, like how we will talk to those tools, how will you get the data? So all of these things, and the security, data privacy, everything comes in this connector or the orchestration layer. So how we see it, they're like two layers, right? So to build a custom AI employee, you need to like connect both of these. So the first thing is the intelligence. For intelligence, right now we are prescribing our customers to use open source based sort of like models, and then they give their enterprise data, and then within the platform itself we fine tune it so that every enterprise has their own sort of like fine tuned enterprise specific model, so that all the enterprise ontologies, taxonomies, and nuances are captured. So that will act as the foundational intelligence layer for all our minions, right? So everything can be done within the Hercules platform itself. And the next thing is, once you connect that intelligence, right? So right now, I mean, in the interest of time, I will just connect existing closed source models, right? Let's say I'll connect GPT-4 in the interest of time, but we are not suggesting our customers to do it. This is just for, demonstration purposes. Our customers will connect their own intelligence model. Yeah, as I mentioned, it can be created within the platform. So the next part is, for example, if you're building a customer support sort of like minion, you want to give access to customer support tools, right? So those tools can be anything like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Slack, Gmail. All you have to do is just drag and drop. And then within 2 or 3 hours, we will train it, and then the model will be like ready to be deployed. So this is how you build custom AI employee or custom minion within Hercules platform. So irrespective of whether you build your own custom employee or you pick the one from the marketplace, you can always deploy that within the platform. Everything is containerized. So all of these minions has their own sort of like ecosystem. They have their own brain, which is their own LLM. They have their own sort of like memory. We use something called as MemGPT, which has a sort of like persistent memory for like long conversations. And also like they have their own sort of like abilities to like connect to the tools which they have been like trained on, right? And then you can go ahead and like start assigning them tasks. Since there was like some sales use cases which was discussed in this sort of like panel discussion, I thought it would be good to like show a sales use case itself, because Vishal was mentioning about RFP and other things. So I'll take an example where I'll ask this, let's say like the sales minion to go ahead and like complete a task for me, right? I will ask it live, but meanwhile, because it will take like 5-6 minutes to complete, so I'll open it in the debug mode. So meanwhile, when the minion is working on the task, we can go and like have a look at the result because I've already like did a run before this meeting. So let's say, I'm asking the sales minion to go ahead and like tell me, what are the best sort of like accounts to target, because there's this new product which Cisco has launched 3 months back called a Switch. And I want to know, if they're like right accounts which I can target. And also I want to know if they're like any account executives within the company who have already like gone and like upsold that particular product, right? Because I can learn the best practices from them. And then finally, I need to like compile all that information in a nice document, attach it as a PDF file, and then send it as an email or a Slack message to all of my team so that they can like learn about it, right? If I have to do this manually, I have to go to Salesforce because that's my CRM where a lot of the account information is stored. I'll get that. I'll have to do some analysis, and then I have to go to ServiceNow or like SQL database or any other place where the account executive data is like stored, so that I understand like if somebody has already like sold that particular product, right? And finally, I will show you the best practices document. It's a 200-page PDF document, and the data is hidden somewhere in the 32nd page. So I have to like read through everything and like compile all the information which I have grasped, and I have to make a decision. Write everything in an email, convert it to a PDF, and then send it to the team, right? It will take like 2-3 hours, but this minion can do it for you in like 10 minutes, right? And also you will see all the steps which it has undertaken to come to the conclusion. It says, hey, first I have to find out where the data is. Is it in Salesforce? Is it in ServiceNow? Is it in SQL database? Once it figures out the database, it says that, okay, in which table it is. So I will read all the schema, I will understand the schema, and I will say, okay, it's in this particular table, right? And then it makes the query call and it gets the data. Then it based on that data, it goes to a next step, takes further actions, right? And finally, you will get an email to your email ID. So this is how it goes step by step to like complete a function. But again, as I said, it's very much boxed, and like we are right now, our technology can support the minions for like very specific purposes. As our underlying technology expands, we will keep expanding those boxes and make our minions more and more sophisticated. And also you can give feedback to these minions, right? We have something called as reinforcement learning with human feedback and direct preference optimization, where we can like keep on improving these models over time so that they get better and better. So think about it. If you have a new role where you want to like hire someone, you typically like build hiring pipelines for like 2-3 months, take interviews, and then that person comes and takes other 3-4 months for onboarding. What we are saying is just hire our like digital worker. It might take like couple of weeks to 1 month to like give feedback and like make it very sophisticated, but you will have an autonomous digital worker which can work on like certain use cases within your organization, depending on the data which you have given, depending on the application which it is connected. It can do certain tasks automatically, right? And moreover, as we are improving the platform, you can like keep on adding more minions as well. So that's sort of like a 40,000 foot overview of like what we are building. Meanwhile, yeah.
Let's see if there is any question, there's any feedback.
So Yash, I think this is great. I think what you have shared. Just one quick question. See, the world is now all about visuals. Can the prompt be converted into something like a visual format which can give faster and quicker insights rather than textual information? Is that something that you're working upon or in pipeline?
Yeah, very good question. So I was about to cover that next. So we are building a digital worker, which is not only like single dimension, right? We are building a digital worker which is 360-degree with multiple modality. For example, our digital worker can open the browser, can take some action and take a screen grab from it, right? For example, if you have to like go to like LinkedIn and reach out to your ICPs, it goes to LinkedIn, takes a screen grab, and then it makes a decision. Okay, this particular ICP is interesting for me based on the context which it has. And then we get the coordinates and then we click on it and then we go to the next step, right? So it's like multi-modal. So obviously we are targeting videos, audios, images, and like text, all modalities, right? And this is where our collaboration with European Union also like comes into play. Because if you look at the large enterprises, right? OpenAI or Google, they are fueling like a lot of like money to work on some of the B2C use cases. I mean, like Sora is one. Google Gemini also like created a text to video use cases, but there is no general purpose enterprise world model, right? I mean, like where you understand, where a model understands in a multimodal way how the entire enterprise industry works, right? I mean, how to like navigate Salesforce, how to navigate ServiceNow, how to navigate Confluence, how to navigate Google Adobe Omniture, Google Analytics. There are like hundreds of thousands of enterprise applications, and we don't have a multimodal way of like understanding all this enterprise ecosystem. So that's why we are collaborating with European Union, because European Union has a program where they select with a rigorous selection process some European startups, and they give free GPUs, right? Where we can like build these all crazy ideas which we have. And for that, we are crawling data from like multiple modalities, right? We are crawling YouTube videos where someone is teaching how to use a particular application. We are crawling Coursera videos, Udemy videos, documentations, API documentations, right? And also like internal, if a company has some internal onboarding videos, how to use applications and all that stuff. So based on that, we are, based on that, we are building a multimodal LLM, which can understand the enterprise sort of like ecosystem, right? And that will be our foundational layer. So right now we are using some of the open source models, as I said, which are textual models, and also like we are separately using some of the open source models like CogVLM, which are visual models. But these are like the models which are not very reliable or accurate. So that's why we want to build our own foundational model, which is enterprise first and which understands the enterprise ecosystem. And on top of that, we will take enterprise data, we will fine tune it. So that will act as the intelligence layer for any enterprises which is using Hercules. And on top of it, there will be like integrations, right? I mean, your stacks or databases which you are connecting, that's the easier part. I mean, that's the engineering part. There's no data science there. And that's how we create our digital minions for like particular use cases. Yes, Vishal, please go ahead.
So love your vision, Yash. The vision makes a lot of sense. To execute this broad vision is obviously not going to be that easy, right? Because you're really going after every function on, across on the pre-built side, and then obviously the new agent can do a variety of things. Have you thought about focusing more? Because, again, my experience with these things is that to even solve one use case correctly, even if I took customer service or just marketing and sales, there are so many use cases within it. And then they require pre-built connectors, they require all kinds of data sources, they require lots of insight into the efficacy and outcomes. And so kind of this is more of a, not so much of a technology, but more of a focus question. How are you thinking about this?
You hit the nail on the head. We cannot boil the ocean and win the market. That's not going to happen. So right now we were like focused for the last 8 months on building the technological layer, right? The SaaS platform and the foundational sort of like collaboration which we wanted with European Union, so that we have a very strong technological moat. Because these days startup just uses APIs and like they get replaced by OpenAI and like Google with any new announcement, right? So that's where we were concentrating. So now what we are doing is now we are like going to like LinkedIn and like identifying which are the jobs which are in the market for like, let's say like 5 months or like 6 months. For example, in Germany, there are like bookkeeping jobs which are there because there's a scarcity of like bookkeepers in Germany, right? And as I was mentioning earlier, there are like jobs which are like very natural for our sort of like bot to automate, like business development, which is like very mundane and like boring job. So we are only like selecting like 4 jobs now, which we want to like build minions for: marketing analyst, sales analyst, bookkeeping, and executive assistant, right? So these are like the 4 areas where we want to like support. And once we have this pre-trained model for this, right, the companies will start using these models, and there we will identify more use cases which are like natural for us, or like in the periphery of these sort of like use cases. And that's how we start building our pre-trained sort of like models. We will not build pre-trained models, all of, like a sudden for like multiple use cases, right? When it comes to the no-code layer, that's what like we give to the customer, and like we work with the customers to like identify some use cases. And again, like there as well, like we are not going after regulated industries, because pharmaceutical and like finance has been very hard to crack, because there's like some sort of like legal aspect as well. If we are deploying a digital minion and it makes a mistake, whose responsibility is it? I mean, is it Hercules' responsibility or the organization which it has deployed, I mean, it's responsibility, right? Because we are talking about autonomous digital minion. So there are like certain legal aspects as well, and it's hard sell there. So we are also like not going with really large enterprises as well. We are targeting anywhere between like 500 to like 5,000 employees company. I mean, like the companies of yours and like a lot of other companies of like panelists who are in this session. So that, I mean, like we have very good use cases which are, I mean, like which we can work together, right? I mean, with our design partners. So that's how we envision. I mean, like we are in the design partner sort of like phase where we have mastered the technology, we have mastered the use cases, but we need some sort of like feedback from the companies where we can like deploy these sort of solutions, right? Because we are at the very cutting edge of like doing things. So it's a very fast moving, evolving sort of like area. So yeah.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Vishal.
Yeah. Sorry.
Any other question, Lincoln or Sunil?
Yeah, I have a question, which is essentially that it's a great deck, but also if you are working with any early customers doing proof of concept, would love to know who you're working with and what's the feedback.
Yeah. So we are working with, I mean, initially, like when we started this, right, I mean, we are doing like a lot of like contract-based work as well, because we wanted to like, before building the SaaS platform, we wanted to understand the use cases. But now once we have built the SaaS platform, we are doing some proof of concept with European Union. There's an organization called as EuroCC, which comes under the European Union. So we are doing a vendor management sort of like POC with them. We are also like doing POCs with some of US startups. Again, these are all in the preliminary phases. Most of the use cases are centered around the sales bot, which I was mentioning earlier, right? And the vendor management, where a lot of these companies have like a lot of emails, and they want the response to these emails in a very contextual way, so that they can just go ahead and like read those emails and like click send, right? Instead of like they thinking about everything and like writing about it, because the bot has access to the previous threads or the context from the email server, and also it has context to your internal repository, so like whatever is happening in your company. So it can tailor and like write a very contextual email message, and obviously as a user you can give feedback and it will learn from that and all that stuff, right? So these are like some of the low-hanging use cases which we are doing. But yeah, I mean, like regarding the complete autonomous sort of like digital minions, the only sales part we have done, the sales minion, but we want to like launch much more and like get more feedback from the market.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. Any question, any other question or insights, if you have any guidance, insights for Yash on the go-to-market strategy, on the product roadmap, anything of that sort?
Yeah,
maybe just something to add, and perhaps you had thought about it. I think it happens in real life as well, in a non-AI world. I'm just thinking about some of the minions' ability to, in a way, to replicate a correct answer, but perhaps not the best one, in the customer service world. And then it's just something that even happens in the real world, which I'll state as an example. For example, you are manning a call center or a credit card company, and the credit card company itself will say, look, if somebody comes in to say that they misplace their card, they would need to provide their IDs and everything. And somebody comes in and say, look, I've been robbed, I don't have my card. And obviously the correct answer is to say, yes, please provide me with ID and all those things. But a emotionally equipped response to that could be to say, are you hurt? Are you injured? Do you need help? Can we get you the police? Can we contact your, for example, your next of kin and all those things? So I'm just thinking that raising this example is to say that how do we improve on the whole machine learning part, but at the same time interlace that with some of the conventional kind of expertise out there that you may be able to sort of make the whole model much better. That's the first one observation, and you may have thought about that. The other thing is, of course, more on the sales world itself. So again, we were involved in some of this robotic treatment to what we call the tender process. And the tender process obviously would like to borrow into all the connected relationships of tender providers and all. So I'm just looking at the ease of, let's say, how they could then perhaps access certain APIs to get into certain perhaps corporate or credit information, and get those information to be part of the whole decision-making process as well. So I don't know, is that something that you may have thought of, but I'm sure you have been quite exhaustive in some of the things that you put in, and I think I'd like to congratulate for a well-thought process. Thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln. I mean, so regarding the first point, right? I mean, you're absolutely right. So it's not only about in certain industries, right? It's not only about just giving the answer or not. I mean, it's not only about that. It's also about being empathetical and being courteous and all that stuff. So right now we are not building anything in that direction. Our technical mode is enterprise understanding, how to use applications, how to use tools, and how to use databases. For this compassion, empathy, and all that stuff, we are relying on a lot of open source and closed source large language models, because there are a lot of people who are already putting a lot of money and building that out. So we don't want to fight in that sort of area. We will just plug that in, right? Because we have a composable platform. If there's some interesting open source models, we will just put that in our sort of LLM repository, and our minions can use that LLM as well as a source of intelligence. Our minions don't use only one LLM; it can use multiple LLMs, right? So that's the proprietary thing which we have built. So any other model is I mean, okay for us to be just integrated into the platform, right? So that's how we see it. Because I mean, our use cases, mostly we are looking at it improving the RPA sort of ecosystem, right? Supercharging the RPA in the processes part, right? I mean, if you have a very tedious process where RPA cannot solve because there's some cognitive intelligence which is required. So that's where we come into play. We are not looking to build customer support bots where the bots will automatically talk to the clients, right? I mean, though, I mean, in the platform it can be built, and we have built that for one customer, but that is not our main sort of USP. Our USP is more on the process automation side, where more complicated workflows and use cases can be automated, right? Including the one which you said, I mean, where the tender processes and everything, which is extremely complicated, we can definitely deploy our bot there, as long as it has access to the relevant data and applications and tools to get the task done, right? And from a GTM perspective, I mean, since Pankaj was asking that question, so we see as I mean, a PLG led sort of motion led company. So our main goal is to give these minions for free for 1 month, so that people can use them, people can see the value, and then from the second month we'll start charging, right? It's like getting a worker in your company and working for 1 month for free, and from second month, if you like that particular employee, you keep them or you just fire them, right? And it would be a monthly fee based sort of program which we will have. And also, I mean, we will have our customer support team, which is nothing but CFDS, right? Customer facing data scientists, who will help to build these custom AI employees and identify custom use cases, so that we will expand on these free tier, right? We will expand and make sure that there are sales analysts, marketing analysts, and there are 3 or 4 custom minions as well. And overall, there might be 5 or 6 minions, and they will be using the Hercules SaaS platform to manage all of them and get their tasks completed. And finally, I mean, based on that, we are expecting ARR between 10,000 to 200,000 per year, depending on the number of AI employees and also the type of AI employees. Because for the custom employees, we charge a bit more than the pre-trained AI employees. So that's how we see from a GTM perspective. And from the competition landscape, we right now don't have the true competitor who's doing exactly same thing which we are doing. But there can be potential competitors, right? I mean, if Automation Anywhere, UiPath, or Zapier decides that, hey, we want to build something like this, then they can be potential competitors, because they already have the clients. They just have to build the technology. But building the technology is not that easy. We feel we already have 1 year sort of head start, because it's not like you take the RPA solution and just integrate LLM and it becomes a cognitive process automation engine, right? To build a cognitive process automation engine, you have to build it from the bottoms up. You need to think about the intelligence layer. How will you make it better? You have to think about the orchestration algorithms, how to make it better. And it has nothing to do with the RPA engine at all. So they also have to build something from the scratch. So that's where we want to like establish our sort of like space. And that's why we are positioning ourselves in a way in which we are supercharging RPA, right? So our potential customers will definitely come from the RPA space or like from Google, Microsoft of the world.
Fantastic, Yash. I think one thing that we definitely, I definitely appreciate about you is that you are going live and seeking feedback, seeking critical feedback on the solution, on the startups. I think that's kudos to you for being so courageous. And I know that we are on time. It's 12:30 p.m. AM SGT. But yeah, if there's any other feedback, any guidance, please feel free to share that with Yash. And I believe this is not the end of the relationship. This is just the beginning. If we can reconnect after this call and share more about the solution, or probably get your feedback or see how we can collaborate, support each other with each other's initiatives, and I think that would be fantastic. Yash, anything from your side?
I would love that. I mean, like all the people, I mean, who were part of this panel, right? I mean, have broad and deep expertise in AI, ML, and all of them are working on very interesting AI use cases. So as I mentioned, right, I mean, we will be happy to do some trial runs, and our minions are free of cost anyway to like trial it. So feel free to like, I mean, I will reach out to each of you individually, but yeah, feel free to like open your doors to me so that we can build something great for the future. And also like, I mean, if there is like some critical feedback, please share it so that we can improve as a company and get better. I mean, we are still a startup, we are learning a lot. So all your valuable expertise would definitely like help us in a longer run, right? So yeah, I mean, looking forward to like knowing you all better and like connecting with all of you and yeah, working with all of you hopefully in the future as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lincoln, Sunil, Naveen, Vishal, and let's reconnect soon. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pankaj. Thanks, Yash. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Very much.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.